Hi guys, so in today's video we're going to talk about JavaScript classes. We're going to focus on these main concepts here: class declaration, using a class, nameless class, inheritance, import and export of a class, and using the super keyword. And I'm going to make two classes, rectangle and square. I'm going to have them in two different files, and square is going to inherit the properties of rectangle. I'm going to show you how to use the super keyword as well. And also, if this is your first time watching my videos, go on YouTube. You can go on my channel, Bab Academy, BAB capital ACADEMY, and you can see some of my videos. The last video that I posted was on inheritance and object reference using classes as well. So go watch it and please leave your comments and feedback. It is well appreciated. Thank you. Okay, so let's move on. Alright, so I'm gonna make my class rectangle. So I'm done. That's my class right there. Rectangle. Nothing else. You can literally stop there. But this class does nothing. So we want to make it do something. The first things that um, the first thing that I actually want to show you is this. I told you that this rectangle has parameters, height and base. Well, this is a square. I mean, this is a rectangle. So let's make it length and width, LW. So to initiate these parameters, there's only one way of doing that, and that is called a constructor. A constructor is used to initiate your private variables, your parameters. So that's what I'm going to do. My constructor, so length, let's call it L and W. And then I'm going to initiate by saying this dot length equals L, this dot W equals W. We use this because to specify that we're talking about this length and this width, not the number that's specifically coming in within the scope. Okay, so we can actually, this is beautiful. We can actually do something with this. We can do something with this rectangle. Let me see what can I transition into. Okay, so let me show you how to use this class. So now that we have made our rectangle and we have made our parameters, we can, let me show you how to set actual numbers to it. So to use it, you need a pointer that points to it. So it's something like this arrow over here. You actually need something like that actually points to it. It's an object reference basically. So to do that, say const p. You don't have to call it p. You can call it whatever you want to call it. A new instance of the rectangle. That's what I'm doing here. Now, the reason why a constructor is so important in a code, when the compiler runs through your code, the constructor is the first thing it calls when it gets to your class rectangle. How do I know that? Over here. The moment you create a new instance of the rectangle, this two parentheses that you attach to it, it's calling the constructor. But what you're doing here is you're passing nothing to it. The constructor requires two parameters, a length and a width. Here I have nothing inside of it, so I need to pass to it the length and the width. I can leave it empty, but that doesn't do much. So 2, 3. That's it. Now, how do I know that the length and the width equals 2, 3? How can I print this to the screen? Like, can I do something like console.log? Length width? No, obviously I cannot. That's not going to work. So we have to find a way of doing that. So there is a way of doing that. So we have to create a method inside of this. So I'm going to call this get variables. Get variable. The only thing it does is return the length and the width. I'm going to return it in an array, by the way. This dot length. You don't have to return it in an array. You can return it anyhow you want. So I'm just going to put them in an array. So this dot L, that's the length. This dot width. So that's all it does. So how can I get access to this? Get variables. Let's see. Can I do something like this? Let me see. Can I just say console.log? Is that gonna work? Let's test it out. Rectangle. Let's see. Node rectangle. It's an error. Get variables is not defined. Get variables is not defined. Yes, because I'm calling a method that it's outside the scope of the class. I don't have access to it. I said over here, line 13, this P is what gives us access to everything inside the class. So to gain access to it, I have to add the P dot get variables. So that P, I'm basically calling the get variables. So now I have access to it. So now we should get back the 2 and the 3. Let's see. You see, 2 and the 3. So that right there is, we basically made a class rectangle and I showed you how to use it. Now here's my thing to you. Do we need a constructor to use the class? No, we do not. Now here, um, let me be actually, you know what? It's better to show you an example. We do not need a constructor to use a class at all. So I'm going to show you what I mean. Just copy this whole thing so I don't lose it. Alright, so let me remove this constructor. I'll call this X. And I'm going to return just X. I'm going to call this LW. Now, I don't need this no more because, let's see. Let's see if it works. Right? Now, watch this. Notice I still have the 2 and the 3 here, right? Undefined, undefined. So the length and the width is undefined for a specific reason. Remember I told you that a constructor is the first thing that is called when you run when you make a class. There is no constructor. So this 2 and this 3, it's not being attached to anything. So it's useless. We don't need it. But so to give this length and width actual numbers, when we call it, we have to pass in the numbers. 5, 6. As it says, this get variables require 2 parameters, L and W. So we have to give it both the 2 numbers, L and W. So now we should see 5 and 6. 5 and 6. So again, I just showed you that you do not need a constructor for the class to work. But what happens is you do not have any private variables here that you can use throughout this class. So let me show you. That's a loud noise. So let's go back. All right. So now my goal is this. Let me see where I'm at. So we talked about to use a class. Oh, nameless class. Let me show you what a nameless class is. So put this back. A nameless class. So still copy this. All right. So let's make let's say const unknown, and then let's call this clueless. Clueless. And then we say class. Again, this is the backbone definition of a class. This is perfect. I don't need anything else. I can prove that to you, that this is also a class. So let's print the name of this class. Let's see, unknown. I just want to say unknown. What's this a class name? This is a parameter that I'm setting. So to get the class name, I'm going to say clueless.name. Name is a keyword that comes with JavaScript that's going to get us the class name. So let us see. Clueless.name. What do you think is going to happen? Class name is clueless. So nameless class. So basically, what just happened is that in the last code, let me show you over here. This code right here, the class name is rectangle. But over here, I did not specify a name, but I passed the class to a constant variable named clueless. And now this clueless becomes the name of the class. This is one of the differences in JavaScript classes. You cannot do this in C++. Or Java. You cannot set a whole class to a variable. That's just not possible. But JavaScript allows us to do things like this. So this is the beauty of it. Alright, so that's the whole deal with nameless class. There's really nothing to it. I haven't come across once I had to use it in my career, but I just want to show you that this exists. You do have a nameless class. Okay, so next thing is how to do inheritance. Okay, beautiful. Let me bring all this back, the rectangle, and then I'm gonna remove all of this. So notice that this rectangle, or this rectangle has two things: a constructor that initiates its parameters, length and width, and a method or a function, whichever name you want to call it, they're interchangeable, called get variables, that returns the length and returns the width of the rectangle. That's all it does. So let me use, I'm using the the common JavaScript module system. So I'm going to do module dot exports equals rectangle. So I'm exporting the rectangle. So in the square, I'm going to bring it down and say const rectangle. I don't have to call it rectangle. I'm just going to call it rectangle equals require rectangle. So I'm bringing it in the required state. So just like I say here, we're using, oh, it's not import, it's require, and export default, export module export. All right. So now I have access to this rectangle here, basically. So I'm going to show you how to use it. So we're going to talk about inheritance. Inheritance basically when another class inherits a, a class. Let me go back to my diagram. So I'm going to make a class called square. Square is going to inherit rectangle. Rectangle is now the parent class, and this is the child class. So square has access to whatever rectangle owns. So for instance, rectangle owns get variables, right? Rectangle owns two parameters, length and width. It sets them and it owns get variables. Square has access to those things. I'm going to show you. So class square. Now to inherit a class, it's very simple. Just use the extends keyword and then the name of the class, rectangle. Notice my rectangle here is capital R. Not this rectangle, small r. I already brought it in. So that's why it's rectangle. Alright, so this rectangle, I want to give it its own constructor. Call it X and Y. Okay, and that's it. So now what do I want to do with this? I want to access this get variables stuff. I want to get you know what? Let me create a different method so I can show you like my thought process. Let's say get area. So get area takes two parameters, does them L and W, and it returns the area, length times width. So it returns this dot L times, no, actually that's not really what it's doing. What I should do is I can say actually I can do that, it's fine. Alright, so get area, I was going to first set the this dot L to L and this dot width to W, and then multiply them, but this is fine. This is just a function, get area, that takes in any two numbers and multiplies them. That's all it does. It takes in any two numbers and multiplies them. It doesn't have to be the length and the width. Just takes in, you know what, maybe this is confusing you guys. Let's call it J and K, whatever. So it doesn't confuse you with the length and width. J times K. It takes in any two numbers and it returns their multiplication. You know, that's so you don't have to say get area. It's not really get multiply, whatever. Get multiply. If that makes sense. Get multiply. All right. So I want access to get multiply from rectangle. Now square has that access now. So what square can do is this. I'm going to show you. So to use square first, I'm going to say const pointer equals p. It doesn't have to be p, it can be and j object, whatever you want to call it, new square. Now notice that square is a constructor that requires you to put two things inside. You don't have to. I don't need them now intentionally, so I'm going to leave it blank. And now I'm going to get access to that get multiply stuff. So console.log multiply. I'm going to call it multiply. So I'm going to say p dot get multiply. It takes two numbers. So what numbers am I going to give it? I'm going to give it 4 and 5. So I should get back 20. When I print square, I should get back 20. Let's see. Oh, oh. Okay. I don't want to introduce that yet intentionally, so I'm going to just remove it. I don't need it. And I don't want to introduce it yet. So it's fine. Beautiful, 20. So the error basically was saying that I need to call super, but I don't want to talk about super yet. I'm getting that. I knew that was going to happen. That's why I was thinking. That's why I paused a little bit before. So I just removed the constructor. That's my goal is not to talk about super yet. Okay, so 20. You see that? So rectangle. I need two numbers. This method belongs to rectangle, but I'm using it through square because I've inherited that. That's what square does. I can use it. Let's pass in 6, 5. That's 30. I should get 30 back. 30. So I have access to it. You know, if without having to, I really don't care how a rectangle is defined. As long as I know if I put two numbers, it gives me back the multiplication. That's all that matters. Now let's talk about super, which is the last thing, the super keyword. Let's go to rectangle. Notice that rectangle has two parameters, L and W, as in the constructor where it sets them, it initiates them, right? And then it has get variables, LW. So I want to access those. I want to access the L and the W, the length and the width. I want to access them. I told you we could. I told you we could. I want to access them inside the square class. There is only one way of doing that. There's no other way, and I'll prove it to you. And that way is by using the super keyword. Notice this constructor doesn't do anything, doesn't take in anything. All I'm going to do is saying super 9, 10. So let me just remove this. So super 9, 10. What am I doing here? Let me explain. By saying super 9, 10, I'm setting the length to 9 and the W to 10. Super can be called within the constructor of the child. Basically, super calls the constructor of the parents class of the parents class. So super calls the constructor of this class of the rectangle class because rectangle is the parent to square. So that's what super does. It calls that. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm calling that. How can I show you that this works? Let me show you this. So the rectangle has access to I mean, that's a there is a method here called get variables that returns the length and the width, correct? So I'm going to call it. I should get back 9 and 10. So let me show you that. Get variables. So p dot get variables. Get variables does not take nothing. I should get back 9 and 10 because now I'm accessing the private variable. I'm having access to it. Wow, 9, 10. I have direct even this is so beautiful. Even if this constructor has its own parameters, let me show you. X, Y. It has its own. It has its own. This dot x equals x. This dot y equals y. It has a zone, and I'm not doing nothing to it. This is still accessing the constructor of the parent class. Let me show you. It's still going to be 910, 910. Now, let's say I pass in. Now, to show you that this is the only way, this this line here, line 11, it's calling this constructor. If I pass in 3 and 4 to it, the 3 and 4 does not belong to the L and W. It belongs to the X and the Y. So watch this. So if to confirm this, let me put a different number here. 7 and 8. To confirm this should give me back 7 and 8 because I'm calling get variables which belongs to rectangle. And this returns the length and the width. And according to this, I'm initializing the length and the width with 7 and 8, not with 3 and 4. 7 and 8. So basically, the super is very, very powerful. You can use it to gain access to the private variables of the parent class throughout your class code, throughout your code. And this is something you use a lot in production, in actual developing. And it's something that I'll show you once I make videos about web development. Well, this is basically it. Let's review. We spoke about class declaration, how you make a class rectangle. We talked about constructor. We talked about how to use it by basically doing this pointer thing over here that I said. We spoke about nameless class, inheritance, exporting, and requiring a whole class. And then we spoke about the super keyword. I hope you enjoyed this very long video. I hope it doesn't bore you. Thank you, and subscribe to my channel if you're new.